The other end of the line, I've got Sim, and we've just been talking about how we're basically the undisputed champions of fantasy rugby right now.
Yeah, the word gods may or may not have been used.
It was used. It was used, and it was used very sincerely. I've just I haven't actually set. Oh, I have set this up right. Everything, all my settings from the last badly made broadcast have been saved, so it's working a treat. We're going to talk about Super Rugby because we seem to be predicting it really well right now.
Yeah, we really are. I mean, I haven't got access to Super Brew right now. My laptop's just turned off, but I'm pretty sure we're 1 and 2, aren't we?
We're not. We're 1 and 2 on the Line Break Rugby League, and we are 1 and 5 on the Reddit one overall. So you being 1 and me being 2 and 5.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we were going to do this weekly originally, but then we decided to hold off until at least one of us had top spot in the overall Reddit Super Rugby fantasy. So yeah, we've finally got there this week, and commiserations to everyone who didn't pick Peterson. Should have picked Peterson.
Basically, if you'd been, we hadn't discussed this at all, but we actually had exactly the same backlines, and I think. I mean, it's just a testament to the quality of our Super Rugby knowledge, and not at all down to pure luck.
I mean, definitely. I think about it. If you think about it this way, no Highlanders available, no Chiefs available, and yet still end up picking the same backline. I mean, it wasn't like predictable that Bowden Barrett would have
I'd gone
a brilliant game.
Karevi. I thought I'd gone left wing with Karevi. I thought I'd gone slightly left wing with Peterson, but we both did exactly the same thing.
And the worst thing is, for Peterson, if you watch the game back, there were quite a few times where he could have gone himself. I think he laid on 2 tries for his teammates, where he could have gone for himself as well. And Francois Venter is the most greedy 12 I've ever seen. If he ever has the ball passing and he's running to the right, he sees Peterson, and Peterson could be in all the space in the world, but Venter's like, no, I'm going to put my head down and run straight into the defender.
Well, HMFC all the way, or it's... Yeah, that's his name. Anyway, I always read it as Cool the Way. It's not. It's HMFC all the way. Anyway, he had Venter in his team, so I imagine he's quite happy now. Also, just another side, just fancy football, or fancy rugby-wise, I mean, watching the Super Rugby games, watching Falau within the first 30 seconds of the game or whatever it was, taking a concussion, or he got knocked out. Did you see it?
Yeah, it was a disgrace.
He got knocked out. And to me, I mean, obviously it's weird because I've got an investment. I didn't choose Falau, but I've got nothing fancy-wise, but he should not have been put back on the pitch.
No way. I mean, he was clearly knocked out. His head bounced off the floor, and he might have, regained consciousness within 5, 6, 7 seconds, but at the end of the day, being knocked out's being knocked out. And I'm surprised because those 2 guys, they kept on showing them. Did you watch it on the game? And the commentators are talking about them watching it on the computer screens, and you see them because the camera goes behind them, and you see his head bounce off the floor, and they're looking at it, and it's like, what are you seeing that suggests that he isn't knocked out?
Yeah, he was out cold. He was asleep when he hit the floor, and he must have passed the concussion test, or he wouldn't have come back on. But to me, if you're sparked like that and you come back on, I don't think there's a long enough period of time that you can do a test in, especially not a rugby test. I don't think you can stick them back on without any uncertainty that person's going to take another knock and go really serious, because they compound. I think there's quite a lot of research out there that compounds head injuries.
Oh yeah, definitely. There's cumulative head knocks are one of the reasons why you're not supposed to go back out there, because of how dangerous it is to get another head knock while you're still concussed. And I mean, it was just it's bad to say, but if they're really putting him out there and risking his safety just for sake of winning a game against the Brumbies, then they're not doing really well right by their players and safeguarding their future. So
I heard on the commentary, they were talking about the fact that Israel Folau's part of a concussion research group, and he's never officially had a concussion in his playing career, and that was when he'd been taken off for a concussion test. They were talking about that. So
Yeah, I heard something about that, which is a bit strange because just because you've never had a reported concussion doesn't mean that you've never had a concussion.
I, I'm struggling. I mean, we're going to have to do more research and
I'm
understanding.
pretty
But
sure that he had a
the
concussion
idea that
that
you've
day.
been knocked out and you haven't got, a serious head injury that you can't go back and play. I was worried for him personally, and I thought it was a little bit of a. I don't know. I think it was a will to win maybe from the Waratahs just to allow him back on the pitch. I think if I was his coach, and I think if there's certain coaches, so I would put. I don't know the coaching staff of the Waratahs very well. I just know the players. I don't know the coaching staff of many Super Rugby teams, but I know Rob Baxter for Exeter because that's my bias. I don't think he'd put any player who's been knocked out back on the pitch. Now I don't know historically whether he has or hasn't, but I don't think he would. I think there's a couple of managers that wouldn't do it.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't think that Daryl Gibson, who's the Waratahs coach, would have done it either. But well, maybe if they're saying to him, "Oh, he's passed the test," and he's like, "Well, he's okay to go out there," in which case the medical staff really need to be independent and not wearing Waratahs jackets.
Yeah.
Then,
But
I mean, I know in the NFL they have an independent spotter who's like, "No, he can't come back into the game."
I think Falau probably wanted to get back in the game as well. But I also think
definitely.
that if you'd asked Dylan Hartley whether he wanted to go back in the game against France, he'd have said yes as well. But that doesn't mean he should go back on.
Oh yeah, I mean, I remember watching
gone.
the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. Well, not even last year. It was New England against the Seattle Seahawks, and it's about I think in the fourth quarter, and Julian Edelman catches the ball over the middle, and he absolutely gets demolished. And he gets up, he's half woozy, and he still carries on running. And they did like a 30-second check, and he's like, no, I want to be out there, because players do want to go out there and win. But they need to be protected from themselves sometimes, and it's disappointing that happened, especially with such a high-profile player. And you just, I mean, what example does it set to everyone else when you're letting him go back out there? Is it just because it's Falau? I mean, would they have taken off Kellaway? If it was Kellaway, would they have just said, okay, we'll just put a different outside back on?
I think that's a very good point. If it had been someone else on that team, I think perhaps they would have just put a sub in, because it's almost a like for like. But there is nobody like Falau. There is absolutely nobody like Falau. So, yeah, that was a little bit worrying. But I think if we take it back to talking about Venter and talking about the Cheetahs, I think we've got to mention the fact that the Sunwolves have absolutely exploded.
Well, it's one of those things, isn't it? Because I mean, certain people have came out, and it feels like certain people in the rugby world have just been waiting for things to blow up after the Sunwolves have been, quite competitive in some of their games. First round against the Cheetahs, I think it was in Tokyo or Singapore, and they lost by a point after going in with quite a heavy lead at one stage.
I think it's fair to say that Eddie Jones has an axe to grind, and he's been waiting till they get absolutely destroyed, and he's decided to pipe up and have a go at them.
For me, if you put it another way, Japan beat South Africa in the World Cup in a tight game, which is a great achievement and everything. But on the other hand, if you said, okay, 3.5, 4 weeks later, after playing 3 more games, Eddie Jones, you've got to take your boys to Johannesburg and play the South Africans there, and they're looking for revenge. Maybe he would have got pumped by 50, 60 points as well. I mean, obviously, it's not ideal. What's happened with the Sunwolves is that they've had, 1 week of pre-season, 2 weeks?
Yeah, I mean, he is having a go at the whole setup, but there was no need.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the other thing with the Sunwolves is that everyone always knows historically, week 3 of a tour in Super Rugby is where you hit the wall. So, week 1, you're up for it. Week 2, yeah, you're still okay. Week 3, you haven't got that final week momentum either, but you're still there and you're drained.
But I saw who is it? Someone replied to me in the thread, because I mentioned, the Sunwolves have played quite well. They've put in some good shifts, and this one they've collapsed, and that's part of the reason why we both put Peterson in our fantasy teams. The Sunwolves are absolutely... I personally thought they've had their close games, quote unquote. They're demoralised now, they're going to get beat. But someone mentioned to me this was their first trip. Who are they playing? Cheetahs. They're in South Africa. This was their first trip. It's high altitude, or it's just...
Yeah, it is. It's high altitude.
It's different, and it's a different way the game is played. I mean, even when you send experienced teams out to a high altitude South African, it's a different game. The ball travels further, the breathing's different. Everything's
definitely. Different. And I mean, I think you just saw it if you watched the Reds game against the Bulls the other day, and it just makes a massive difference where you have to just your exits have to be different because you can kick the ball way further, and if you don't get the maximum distance you can on your kicks, then the opposition is going to tear you apart because they're going to be making a lot more territory on their kicks. Next thing you know, you're playing the whole game in your half, and any half break is points.
Yeah, I understand that. Right, I'm gonna quickly. What other games can we talk about? Oh, the Stormers beating Lions. So they've had a fight.
The Lions beat the Stormers.
Oh, the other way around. Sorry, I was just thinking Janty's.
Are you concussed as well, Charlie?
No, the thing is, I was trying to look up who was playing next week at the same time, and I got them mixed up. But I was annoyed because I wanted to play Combrick over Nandolo.
Mm-hmm. Not enough changes to make.
Yeah,
in the
not
team,
enough.
though.
When I had him. I put him on the bench, and I shouldn't have. It doesn't make a difference. It was 0.5.
Well, last week was always going to be a tricky week because of the Highlanders players being off and the Chiefs players being off, and those were the back threes that traditionally you'd select players from and think, okay, I'm going to start this guy against anyone.
Mm.
Especially if you've got James Lowe and he's out, and then you've got Ben Smith and he's not playing, and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, I need to get two outside backs, and if you think about it, picking Nadolo is not the worst pick in the world. So.
Yeah, I thought he might get a good carry and a good try, but Combrick's definitely coming back in. Who have the Cheetahs got? Cheetahs got the Rebels, so
which is it's a good pick, but in Australia, I mean, the Cheetahs don't always travel well, and the Rebels will be out for some kind of getting their dignity back.
Wow,
after,
you're desperate for it. I don't know how
to
to say his name. Is it McMahon?
McMahon.
There you go. I always say his name wrong. I read it. He needs some justice for you because he's getting sod all points.
Well, I would call him 0.5 points McMahon this week, but I've got to remember that in the early weeks when I wasn't doing too good, I think he had a couple of 20, 25 point weeks.
He's the bag.
Yeah, he's a very talented ball runner. It's just that he's part of a very poor Rebels team at the moment.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were looking at the Rebels thinking that they'd be a potential finals team, but I don't see it. It's just lacks talent across I mean, they've got some good players, young players, but I just think they're a long way from the finished article yet.
They still need some heavy development. I'm going to quickly have a look at the team. I mean, I think we've both got Holloway, haven't we?
We have, I mean, because he's the no-brain lock
second
selection,
row,
really.
but he's actually
playing
playing number 8.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
you pick him.
You do. I mean, even though the Waratahs aren't going to really get you the regular scrum points and the regular line-out points, but having him makes a massive difference because he's going to churn out those run meters. He's a try-scoring threat as well. And, I mean, when you've got somebody like that who can... I mean, not many locks are going to break the 15-point mark for a week. And I think that he's potentially the only one who's going to do it. I mean, Etzebeth on his best day is about a 12 to 14-point player, and he's out for 6 weeks. So...
So your options are limited there. Also, but then the downside for me, I've got Stormers now. I'm calling him. But he's playing second row at the moment. He's not actually playing number 6, so I've got him in the back row. But it's quite interesting because I think he gets points for line-out takes as well.
No, I don't think. I think you get it for line-out steals, Charlie. Yeah. I'm pretty sure it's you get 1 point per line-out steal.
No, it says win 100% of your own line-outs.
Then
like 10% of the opposition's or something.
Yeah, then you get it's for all forwards then, so it won't just be for him.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so that'll get your little props, the little piggies points too. The problem though with South African locks especially is I mean, even look at someone like Peter Steph du Toit who's actually got a hybrid 6-8 lock. And he's someone who's really dynamic, really athletic, and all he ever does is hit a ruck, repeat again and again.
Yeah.
Whereas if you've got someone like, I don't know, Scott Barrett, who seems like he's a real star emerging, or Delaney Sue, or maybe even Sam Whitelock, that they're a lot more rangy. They'll get out in the wide channels and maybe make a break. And if your lock makes one break in a game, he's got you the points that you'd want from him, really.
Now, I mean, there we go. I mean, the other two choices I've got at and back row forwards are Severe and Fardy. I don't know what your
I've got at the moment. I've got the 4 players I have are Matt Todd, Jack O'Creel, Ardy Severe, and Steve McMahon. Is it Steve or is it Sean? I can't remember.
S. McMahon.
Smahan. Let's call him Smahan for now.
But I like Vardy. I'm a big fan. You obviously haven't picked him, but I'm a big fan of Vardy. I think
He
he's
does seem to get out to the wide channels now a bit, doesn't he? I mean, it
yeah.
was one that I was thinking about, but the reason that I've gone with the four that I have, it's Matt Todd. For some reason, I just remember him whenever Richie McCaw wasn't playing for the Crusaders, it was always all rolling malls go to Matt Todd, but he hasn't had one yet.
Okay.
But the other guys are all very similar, aren't they? Jack O'Creel, always getting on the ball, trying to make meters. Same with Adi Surveyor, same with McMahon as well. And the one that I was thinking about bringing back in this week is Elliot Dixon.
I've got Dixon on my bench. Yeah.
Dixon, he's just that guy in their forward pack. That if someone's going to do something in their forward pack, it's most likely going to be either him or Liam Squire. And Liam Squire's just, I think, too much of a liability in terms of getting injured.
Yeah, but I've kept Dixon on my bench ready as a Highlander because I was thinking, you know what, I'm not getting rid of him. If any of the others take a little knock, Dixon will come on and he'll do the job.
Yeah, and I mean, Dixon's that kind of player that can score you a try or two even in a game, and he might beat defenders and make a lot of meters.
He's a monster. I mean, there was that carry, was it in the final or the semi-final? Yeah, it was just the biggest, awesome carry.
Was it the final? I can't, he got 4 players on his back and he's just,
carried them all over, and everyone will argue to the death that he didn't get it down or he did get it down. It doesn't matter. He went with 4 players and he just...
Well, if anyone who says that he didn't get it down, they're dead inside, so...
Spot on. Absolutely spot on, because that was just too beautiful a moment to not be a try. So, some Wolves have capitulated. I haven't got a single Jaguares, if that's what we're saying, or Jaguars. I haven't got a single one of their players in my side, but they are playing the Sunwolves next week. So, do I invest and make some transfers?
Well, I'm looking at Santiago Cordero. He's been missing since the car crash that he had. And it didn't seem like it was all too serious, but they've just rested him a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's the typical looks for work. I mean, everyone always gets confused.
Off his wing.
Yeah, there's 2 different types of wingers. Yes. There's a winger that waits for the ball, and that's someone like Anadolo,
Sevilla, yeah.
And when the ball comes your way, then they're great. But you've also got the looking for work type wingers. I mean, like the Nahol Lows, the Nahimil Nascudas, and the James Lows, and those kinds of players. And that's what Peterson is. And that's why I picked Peterson over Raymond Rule last week, is because he comes and looks for work. And Cordero is exactly that type of player. He'll be greedy. He'll try and make meters from everywhere, especially against... I think there's a bit of an arrogance in him where he'll see the Sunwolves and he'll think, right, well, I can do this.
Yeah, I completely agree. I was just having a thought about Cordero, and he's lethal as well. He scores a lot of tries. So maybe McNichol's out. Maybe McNichol's had his run. Crusaders versus the Brumbies. I think.
I think McNichol did come off injured against I'm going to call them the Jags because I'm not going to do the whole
Jaguares
with the H. Yeah, no way. But yeah, McNichol did come off injured. I think after 20 minutes to go. So
I might just uninvest. I might put Nadolo on the bench, Combrick in, and stick Cordero in the back 3.
I mean, I was going to make a couple of changes to my back 3 as well, but I'm kind of stuck because I made a rookie mistake.
You made an early sub.
No, I haven't made any subs yet. But what happened was a few weeks. I mean, I've had Brendan Edmonds in my team from the very start, but he got injured against. I can't remember, was it the Reds or the week before that? He's out for the season, and I wanted to really get Dane Coles in this week, which is a wise decision looking in hindsight.
Yeah.
But I needed to get Reggie Goods out for that, so I took Reggie Goods out and replaced him with Charlie Famuina. And my other starting prop at the moment is Marcel van der Merwe, so I've got 2 props who are on their bye.
Oh, so you've got to shift
one
those.
Prop who's
and Snyman in second row.
Yeah, that's not too bad though, because I've got Holloway and other lock who
You're not telling us.
I can't remember who it is.
I can't see. I can't see your subs.
It's the same guy that I had last week. But
I'll have a look. 7th. Who played? You played Dutoit.
No, I played
Dutoit.
Yeah, I've got Dutoit, so I'll play him. It'll be him and Holloway. But I'm stuck because originally I wanted to bring Julian Savé in as well because he looks like he's sweating off the McDonald's and he's looking leaner and
Yeah, I mean,
definitely.
I've written that. I've written an article. It's been edited. Everything's pretty much finished, but I haven't published it or anything. But essentially, all I said was Sevilla looked like he was fat, dropping the ball, and just a bit of a liability. And then about 2 weeks last week, or 2 weeks ago, he started decided, oh, you know what? I'm going to score a bucket load of tries, and I'm going to show you that I'm actually world class. So he
Yeah, I
started
mean, I
doing
think
it.
over the last 2 games, he's averaging about 120 meters a game, probably about 5 defenders beaten, and a try or two each game.
Yeah,
So he's not doing too badly, to be honest,
he's coming back hard.
since his break. And I mean, it's definitely a positive for him because the way that it was looking, he wasn't even one of the top what 5 or 6 wings.
No, I
I
wouldn't
mean,
have. No.
especially selection-wise for Super Rugby. I mean, if you were looking at it, the wings that you want to have for your fantasy team at the moment, I'd still say James Lowe, even though, I mean, with the bye, people might forget, but James Lowe's been fantastic. He's made more meters than anyone else, I think.
The whole. I don't think anyone's forgetting that the Chiefs are fantastic. I think the only thing that people are going to have a look at is whether they can stand the test of a Hurricanes team that are finding form.
Okay,
They're
so
they're just ticking a bit. No, they're not like amazing. Barrett's still, not 100% and playing amazingly well. He's had an intercept that makes it look good, but
yeah,
they're
this is
ticking
the
a
thing
bit.
with the Hurricanes is, I did say, I think at the very start of the year, the Hurricanes aren't very good this year. I mean, and it's all relative because I mean, I'm saying not very good compared to last year when they won the regular season.
Yeah,
And if you look at it the other way around, I mean, they're missing their best lock from last year in James Broadhurst, who hopefully he'll be able to recover from his concussion injury soon. I mean, he's missed the whole season so far, and I think he's still suffering from symptoms as well.
yeah.
I mean, last week they were missing Blade Thompson as well in the second row. TJ Perinara hasn't had the best start of the season so far. Barrett's playing too deep. I mean, he was doing better the other day, but again,
He
its
doesn't.
caveat is against the Rebels.
He annoys me because he's one of the best flat tens in the world, but he needs to either attack the line himself and just go like an absolute rocket, or he needs to learn to attack the line and actually give the pass well at the line. He doesn't. He gives the pass so deep and so slowly that it means that his backs need to generate pace, and it's not always working, to be honest, for them.
The other problem is that in his back line at the moment, he doesn't really have another player who's going to create a passing move and pass someone into space. I mean, the back line, I think that the one that's most likely going to start against the Chiefs will be Perinara, Barrett, and then Surveyor on the left wing with Lamape at 12 and possibly Holo at 13 and probably Corey Jane at 14 with maybe Woodward at 15 if he's fit. Without just James Marshall in the team, he doesn't have somebody else who can come in and take pressure off him at first receiver.
That 12 and 13 is not a combination for distribution. Let's put it that way. They're very good players, but they're not particularly distributors. So
I mean, they're very limited, and for me, if you look at the other New Zealand teams, look at their centres, I think you'd probably legitimate gripe to say that the Hurricanes have the worst centre pairing out of all 5 of their teams.
Damn, straight fire.
Yeah, I mean, and this is with Rennie Ranger's terrible form. I mean, now that he's injured, it doesn't make too much of a difference. But Rennie Ranger's probably been the worst starting centre in all of the Super Rugby teams so far.
There was someone banging on the sub, and I can't remember who. Whether they would, I think they were saying that Rangers should be picked over Severe or something like that.
Oh God!
And I was looking at it, and I was just like, Ranger. I'm not touching him for anything for fantasy rugby anyway. So forget about yards made or defenders broken or tries scored. He's just not that. He's not all that. I mean, he's not going to distribute, and if he's not breaking tackles and making yards, I don't really know what his role in a team is.
I think Rennie Ranger's problem is that when he was showing really good promise a couple of years ago, then he went abroad and signed. He had his contract signed to go to play in France, and that stalled his development. When he came back, he's still at the same stage as he was when he went there, and I think that really harmed him in the terms that once these players have gone, the other players will take their chances. And I think a similar thing's going to happen with Pietau if Pietau wants to come back down the line. I mean, the outside backs are coming in so thick and fast.
I would agree with you in terms of Pietau. I think he's playing in a team right now, Wasps, which are the most exciting side in Europe in terms of attack. So Pietau might not lose that much of an edge, but I'm gonna make a weird comparison, and you're gonna have to go with me a little bit.
Go on.
Right. So Genghis Khan took over most of Europe, right? Yeah, Genghis Khan took over most of Europe, okay? Where they trained all their horse archers and everything. They called it the steppe or the steppe or whatever you want to call it. I've only read about it, so I don't know how it's said. But essentially, when they went to take over somewhere, they'd send an army, they'd take over the area, and immediately get refreshed by a new army, and they'd come home and train again. Because they'd lose their skill that they learnt on the steppe when they get sent out.
Okay, sure.
So to me, Pietau and all of these, the New Zealand players, they come over and they can't necessarily go back with the same level of skill. Like you're saying, they lose a little bit of that edge.
So if we're going to use a more topical analogy, we could say it's like the Unsullied in the Game of Thrones, where they have to be training, otherwise they start getting fat.
They get fat and lazy, and then they get beaten in their own, like in those street fights that we saw. Yeah, that's the argument, isn't it? So to me, that's one of the. That was one of the, I don't know, the roles that Genghis Khan played. He decided, no, I'm not going to let my soldiers or whatever, in this case my players, become fat and lazy and untrained, just living off the money in France. I'm going to bring them back and make them train harder so they keep progressing. And I think you might have picked up on something where Ranger's gone away and he's perhaps enjoyed it, and he hasn't actually played that badly from the little glimpses I've seen, but not amazing. But now he's come back and he's not quite at the same level he was.
I think the other thing with Ranger and with a few other players as well is Ranger's essentially, and I think I might get a lot of stick from this from certain people, which it's probably a bit personal, but Ranger is very Aussie in style.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, if you think of it this way, the Australian rugby teams over the last, say, 10, 15 years. I mean, they have tried to bring out some unstructured attacking play, and when they do play option rugby, they can do it very well. But the skills that they've lost are the decision-making skills, and they play a very regimented style. They're all chasing this like mythical Aussie running rugby style, and it's hilarious to me because very rarely do any of their teams ever play it, and very rarely do any of their players ever exhibit it. And now one of the ones that we'll get cited as an example for you is look at Folau. Look at the way he runs. Folau does never ever play any option rugby because Folau lacks the basic skills in two of the three disciplines, right? In that he can't pass, he can't kick. He can run, and he runs brilliantly. But when you look at Ranger, it's the same thing. Ranger is very effective when he's running the ball. He can't pass. He can't kick. And when you've got to be able to do at least two of those things.
There's plenty of players that can run really well and kick. And I'm going to bring, because we've got him in our team. Peterson had a lovely grubber kick through and scored a try. Naholo can kick when he has to, just a little grubber through or something like that. Even Nadolo can. So. I completely agree that they need the three dimensions to be able to play.
And the other thing is, if you look at the team that's the most exciting team to watch so far, and you look at their backline, if you look at their 9, he can run, he can pass, he can kick. You look at their 10, he can do all three. You look at Charlie Ngatai at 12, yep, you're ticking all of those boxes as well. You look at Damien McKenzie at 15 and thinking, yeah, he can do it too. You look at James Lowe, and James Lowe's probably got the biggest boot out of all of them. Yeah.
Tamani Vula, his hands have got better, actually. I said in the previous game thread that his hands have got a lot better. He wasn't doing so well last season, but he's got a lot better.
Yeah, he's a very talented player, but I think he's lost his starting spot now to Anton Lienert-Brown, who, again, can pass, can run, can kick, yeah.
All right, well, I've got a small thing. I don't think TKB is as good a runner as he could be. He's a good player, and he's a good 9, but he's not particularly a run at the space, find the gaps.
I can't stand him.
Really?
No, I can't stand him.
He's an extra
I can
forward.
understand why the All Blacks picked him ahead of TJ Perenara in the World Cup final, because they expect Aaron Smith to play 80 minutes every game, and they're just thinking, okay, if it is a tight finish, then we can bring TKB on, and he can be an extra Lucy around the breakdown and shut the defence around on the fringes. But in attack, if you play him ahead of Brad Webber, then, and you know that's happening, I'm just thinking, okay, am I going to start all of my Chiefs players? Am I as confident as I was to start all of my Chiefs players this week as I would have been if it's Brad Webber?
True.
Because Brad Webber is really, I mean, the best way to describe him is Diet Aaron Smith.
Oh, a diet Aaron Smith. He came on as, I think he got moved to flanker. TKB got moved to flanker at one point during the last game he played. And that was hilarious because he was actually carrying quite well and defending quite well, and I was just like, all right, fair enough, this is okay by me.
Oh yeah, it's just hilarious because, I mean, for me, I wouldn't give him the choice of the two, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's lost the starting job for the season now to Webber. And that, for me, he was always the third best halfback at the Chiefs, but it was hilarious because he was always the one that was starting ahead of Pulu and Webber.
He's just he's really reliable. I mean, there's a lot of fans of him on the sub, to be honest, but he's just very reliable. His passing's decent. His attacking game is fine because Cruden and McKenzie make up for any lacking that he has for actually running off the base. So he does his job quite well, I think.
He's a very serviceable player, but I think that the cumulative effect that Webber has on all of the Chiefs, and I mean, everyone's had that and seen it in the last. I think he started against the Brumbies as well, Webber, and he definitely started the week before that too. It's just the speed to the breakdown that he has, the speed of delivery, and it just sets everybody else off in motion. I mean, Cruden's playing fantastically at the moment. I can't even believe that there's a debate about whether he should start.
Look, I'm about to inflame it with my article, but essentially I've said Cruden's number one. He's the pick.
Oh yeah, I mean, Lima Sopwanga is a very good 10, and for most countries around the world he'd be starting at 10. But the entire rationale that anybody has for him starting ahead of Cruden at the moment is Lima Sopwanga can kick goals and Cruden can't. Now, have I missed the point where Sopwanga became like some Johnny Wilkinson style 95% goal kicker?
I think he's a 80 plus, 85% sort of kicker.
Oh, sure, he's an 85% goal kicker. I think Cruden's around about a 78% career goal kicker.
78, yeah.
And
but it hasn't. I mean, obviously Mackenzie's taken over the role a bit, so it's harder to tell. But
sure, but I think it's that's gone now. That's finished because I think they were saying that once the bye is gone, Cruden's taking over the kicking duties, and they're really just trying to ease him in because of the knee injury that he had.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. I can see that.
The other thing with it is, I think the main point that it comes into with the kicking is accuracy. I think it's negligible, the difference. I think range is the big point between them.
All right.
Cruden, I think Cruden, when it's 45 metres, I'm thinking Cruden, is he going to make it? But with Sopwanga, I think he's good from 55 maybe even.
I don't know if I've seen him kick from 55, but that might be more of a just never really see people kick from 55 metres, so you wouldn't see it. But yeah,
I think I saw it against the Reds. I think he made it as well.
Okay, fair.
Or it was 50 and he made it quite easily, maybe.
So we're talking about the kickers. Now the two kickers who are kind of up and coming because they didn't have buys last week are the Blues, which is Ahia West.
Did you see Ahia West play the other day?
I didn't see it all.
He missed one from out in front from about 35 metres, 40 metres.
Did he miss it
maybe?
Straight in front?
Yeah.
Oh no, I did because I commented. Oh my
it.
god, I commented on the thing saying, "Oh, his kicking's been all right this year," and then suddenly he missed that, and I was like, "Oh, for fuck's sake!"
You'll never see me pick Ahia West. If somebody beats me and they do it by picking Ahia West, good play to them. I'm not doing it.
He's the third highest point scorer in Super Rugby at the moment. So I mean, you wouldn't. I mean, Sim might judge you, but I wouldn't judge you because I'm looking at the stats and I'm going, yeah, fair enough. He's knocking his goals, and the Blues. Let's be honest, the Blues are not scoring tries, so they're going to kick penalties.
I was going to say, is it because the Blues are rough?
Yeah, it's because the Blues are rough. And it is, but it doesn't really matter because that's points on the board, and West is proving that he can goal kick occasionally when he's not missing from right in front from 35 yards, but he can goal kick.
The only other thing I would say to that is, if you've got the option of picking Ahia West, or picking Bowden Barrett, it's a no-brainer because a higher
Yeah.
West might get you the threes and from the penalties, but Barrett's going to get his own kind of cheap points. And if they involve running 80 metres back for an intercept try in the 80th minute, you've got to get those points.
So I tell you what, if you want this is my call for kicker. I'm gonna make it. Lions 10 Yantes, right? I think that's how you
Great
say his
pick, I'd
name.
say.
Right? This week they're playing the Kings. He's going to be knocking conversions over for fun. Okay? You pick Mackenzie, you pick Barrett, you've got Hurricanes versus the Chiefs. You don't know who's going to win, particularly, probably the Chiefs, but you don't really know who's going to win. You can't even trust Mackenzie's going to be kicking, so if you do think the Chiefs are going to win and you pick Mackenzie, you can't trust that he's kicking. If you pick Cruden, you can't really trust that he's kicking. If you pick Barrett, again, he might be completely off form and just not be able to actually convert anything. So, for me...
Well, I've already kind of actually figured my plan of action out, to be honest.
Go on, hit me.
I'm going to drop Samu Karevi this week.
Yeah.
Going to start and pick Lealiafano as the kicker.
Yeah, okay.
Bring Charlie Nartai back into my team.
Yep.
Stick Damien McKenzie at 10.
Mm-hmm.
And there you go. I know that the Chiefs are going to win.
You do, but this is my problem with Lealiafano, right? He is no longer playing 12, as we saw last week.
Yeah,
right?
I saw this. It really annoyed me.
He's no longer playing. So he's not playing 12, which means no carries, no line breaks, trademarked, and there's no tries really. He's not an attacking 10 when he plays 10. He doesn't really.
Yeah, it's just a shoveler, isn't he? I mean, I saw that so many times. I was thinking, just put your head down and just run through the gap like Tim Will would have. I can't believe the Brumbies are doing it. And I think they'd be a much better team if they swapped them back round.
Well, they beat the Tars, and the Tars not really playing well, but they managed to spread it wide to Tamani and get him to keep finishing tries off, and that's what happens when you have a shoveler at 10. Your wingers score tries if your forwards are strong. Forwards
the problem
are strong,
with
shoveler,
that game was
wing scores.
I thought they were a bit lucky.
Yeah, they probably were, but I think that if you look at their game plan was to scare the living crap out of the Tars up front, get their forwards scrambling, and then get the wingers to score tries, and that's what happened. I mean, maybe...
Should we talk about the elephant in the room?
To 12. Go on.
Why has none of us picked yet Tamani for any game week?
I'm just not trusting that he's going to continue scoring tries, because this is the problem, right? You never see a highlight reel of Tamani running more than 5-10 metres, because the Brumbies do not use their wingers when they're not in the opposition 22.
Yeah, that's true.
They never use their wingers. So, meters made for Tamani, he might score a bucket load of tries, but they're finishers tries. They're not really rangy tries. So, meters made is going to be down. He's going to get points for the tries, but he's not going to get meters. So, the combination, I'd prefer someone like Combrick, who will consistently make lots of meters and finish off the odd try here or there, rather than Tamani, who might score 4 tries but make 5 meters scoring all 4 tries or something. I like it. I don't know. I like consistent. I also like watching those kind of players. I like the rangy runners more than I like watching.
Oh yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, when everyone loves having the blockbusting wing in their team, but for fantasy purposes, always pick the winger that was going to come off his wing and do work, because then even when they're not scoring tries, they're going to score points. I mean, at the end of the day, you can do a lot worse than pick 3 fullbacks in your back 3 as well. Because especially if they're against a kick-happy team, that they're going to run the ball back and get the meters.
There was a period of time where I think I had 4 fullbacks on the pitch. I had Mackenzie, Smith, LaRue, and someone else. Anyway, I just thought, you know what, they're going to make meters. They're going to run it all the way back all the time, and they're going to score lovely long tries. Didn't happen, but the idea was there, you know.
Yeah, I mean, you have to do something different every now and then. I mean, I think the places where I've scored most points so far this year have been through my back 3, through my back row as well, actually.
And captaining Severe, yeah. You're Ardy.
Oh yeah, well, I captained him the week where he got a yellow card, which was fun.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So and McMahon managed to get one this week as well, and I had 2 yellow cards the week before that. I think Snyman and Van der Merwe were in the same match. So I think my aim for this week is just not to get a player yellow carded, and I'll be happy with that, considering I've got about 90-point lead now.
Yeah, you okay? Let's talk about that before we finish off. So essentially, we're 1 and 2. You're number 1 on the Line Break Rugby Fantasy League. Wait, let me get them up. And I'm number 2 on the Line Break one. But you are still just way ahead. Like I'm not even close, which is a little bit sad, but it's quite interesting. I mean, you got the top points because of Peterson. Oh no, here we go. You're only 30 odd points. Oh no, that was just for the week. Oh, only 30 points for the whole week. Okay, so you're about 80 something points away. 84 points ahead of me.
The thing is, though, there's I think what 9 rounds of fixtures to go yet. So
no shit, you're more than that. You're 120. You're 125 points ahead of me.
Yeah, so I can afford
you
to
get a 0 point week and still be okay. Like,
yeah, I'm not going to try that, to be honest.
Bold moves. So essentially you're walking it at the moment. I'm coming second. I mean, I'm 21 points ahead of third at the moment, which is. I
definitely am worried about the Mackenzie problem, though.
I'm worried. I want to play Mackenzie, but he's not. He might not be kicking, so I'm. I don't know what to do.
The only the issue that I've got is who gets any more points, Mackenzie and Liliafano, or Karevi and Barrett.
I actually did the calculation. Barrett, I didn't captain or put kicker as Barrett, and he got 6 points I think for kicking, or 7 points for kicking, and Liliafano got the same for kicking. So to me that was fine.
Who have the Brumbies got this
didn't
week?
carry, so. I've literally just come off the page where it's give me a
the other feature of the Brumbies game plan last week was
they're playing the Crusaders.
Whenever they were just kicking for touch, and I don't think that'll happen against the Crusaders, who have just quietly gone out and got the best set piece in all of Super Rugby this year. I mean, they've got the best scrum efficiency, one of the best line out efficiencies too, and they're looking really dangerous for a team that I didn't think was going to do that great. I mean, it was all caveated around number 10 and what they would happen. And Richie Mo'unga's been a lot better than Marty McKenzie, who that's what I thought they would have there. And they're really rolling. Scott Barrett's been fantastic. So they've got 3 genuine quality locks now. The back row were buzzing, and Israel Dag came back. Do you see Dag's
on flying form, and he's blown my article out the water because I didn't even mention him. I mentioned Ben Smith, I mentioned Severe, I mentioned James Lowe, I mentioned so many options for the back 3 and 10.
I'm going to say something controversial now.
And then Dag comes in. I know you're going to say, like, don't pick him, he's old or something.
No. So Dag is,
go on.
I think, fully fit for the first time in about 2.5 years. And when Dag is fully fit and when he's on his game, he is the best attacking fullback that New Zealand have.
Okay, interesting. Right, so I have some stats, and this is because obviously I've been doing a lot of research for this article that's nowhere near published and not up yet because Dag's fucked it up. But the Highlanders have the most tries or points and meters made from kicks. So that means you kick to Osborne, you kick to Fads, you kick to Ben Smith. They will come back with extras and more. They will run it back the most.
Yeah.
Obviously, Dag's back and he hasn't been playing, but the Crusaders, I think, obviously they've got a different system, and Dag's the only one that might run it back out of those 3. McNichol and Nadolo are technically different in that way.
I think the major difference with them is that a lot of the times when you kick the ball to the Crusaders, Andy Ellis decides to pop up and grab the ball and kick it back.
Yeah, okay.
So it's never a help.
It's hard. It's hard for them to. Yeah, but
the reason that I'm going really heavy on Dag is before, when he wasn't, I think, completely fit, he didn't have the pace to finish the outside break. Now, when if he attacks at 12 or 13 channel, and he beats that first defender, which he does a lot.
Yep.
And when he does that, then he's got the pace to burn the cover defence as well. But the only problem with Dag is Dag's very unselfish in the terms that he's a very good passer of the ball, and he will look to finish the break with a pass if he thinks that, scoring himself is even questionable.
Rather
he's
than knock his head down and go.
He's not like the other Israel in that he will just try and go for the line. The other thing about Dag is he's got a fantastic boot, so just generally selection-wise, It's going to be a very interesting three-way, well, even four-way for the All Blacks 15 shirt. If
Mackenzie, Smith, Dag. Who's your other?
Barrett, I would say.
I see. I know it
I don't think Barrett will start.
It does Barrett's stats a disservice because they look amazing, but he's not actually playing very well. I like Beauden Barrett. I put him up there as one of my favourite, but he's not a clear-cut New Zealand 10. Sapawanga, Cruden, and that's it. Sapawanga and Cruden are way ahead of him at 10, and I think Smith, McKenzie,
somebody
and
once,
Dag are
and
ahead of
I'm
him
guessing
15.
it might be Mr. Barrett Senior. When Barrett was training to be a rugby player, when he's a kid, he's 8-9 years old, and he's like, "Son, you're not a fullback, you're a 10."
Yeah, that's true. And
somebody's lied to him his whole life.
He is a fullback. He's lethal. He's absolutely
Definitely.
lethal. He's one of the quickest players or accelerating players that you've ever seen. He suddenly turns on and he looks like Roadrunner. His legs are spinning around like mad.
Oh yeah, and it makes such a difference when you've got somebody who can play in that pivot role and be that quick as well, which it makes an inside defenders. It holds them, because if you've got somebody who's that quick through that channel, and again that's why I say about Dag, when somebody's capable of making that break and finishing it off, then the defenders are always concentrating on that inside break, and it leaves your wingers open too. But it's sad for Barrett in a way, because everyone knows that he wants to play 10, but I don't think he's ever going to get to for the All Blacks. I'll be very surprised that without injury, if he ever starts another test for the All Blacks at 10.
There's 10s in the world that can't finish off the intercepts that he makes. There's loads of 10s in the world that can't finish them off. And when he makes an intercept, it's more like, oh, it's over, because he just goes. He's into the distance and he's running like a madman. And it's brilliant.
Do you know what I really want to see? What I really want to see, Charlie, is a three-way race. So Victor Vito,
Yep.
Dane Coles,
Yep.
Beauden Barrett. Who wins?
Barrett. I think. Well, over the first 10 metres, I think Coles and Barrett are ahead. And then I don't think Vito's going to be anywhere near by about 50. I think Barrett's going to be about 2 metres ahead of Coles. And there'll be a borderline on the line. I think Barrett would win.
Really?
Yeah, I don't think Vito...
I think you're very badly underestimating Victor Vito.
I think Vito can move, but I tell you what, he's too tall.
Okay, so Vito's going to make the ground up in the last 40
Yeah,
metres.
but Vito's, like, his first 10, 20 metres are not that quick. Like, he's...
So if we're talking about it a different way, what we're saying is that Vito's basically Usain Bolt.
Usain... Basically, what was it? Bolt says that if he's in touch with 20 metres to go, he's won, because that's when he comes through. Vito's acceleration. Well, look at him. He's 1.92 meters. What's that in feet? I don't know.
Yeah, he's about 6'4".
He's too
tall. I'm 187 and
No, that's
188, and I'm 6'3" at 188.
That's 6'3".
Sorry, I'm 6'2.5" at 188. So I think he's probably about 6'3" and maybe a bit.
6'3" pretty much. So he's a little bit tall for crazy acceleration. Whereas Barrett and Cole's acceleration is really, really good. And
maybe if they raced on a 400-metre race, would Dane Coles lap Corey Jane?
Jane's 100th. We didn't talk about that. I'm going to have to go because I've got to go. But
got life.
Yeah, got life. Corey Jane's 100th, or his centenary went by. Didn't score a try, and then he scored a try in his next game, so he did all right.
Well, Corey Jane's just take what the other team gives him winger at this stage of his career. There's a lot of players who have had great careers and they're stagnating now. But there's a real exciting generation of Super Rugby players coming through, and I think it's going to be a rude awakening for a lot of people who thought that the summer tests might be an opportunity to grab some ground back on the Southern Hemisphere. It's a really exciting time, I think, in Southern Hemisphere rugby. Can't wait to write about it more.
I'm excited. I'm excited for it all, to be honest with you. Right, I'm going to play the music, the outro music. Basically, those are some run-throughs of ideas of teams that we've had, Super Rugby-wise. I can't think of anything specific that we've missed out on. We've actually talked about most of it, haven't we?
Except don't think Michael Hooper. He's terrible now.
Yeah, Hooper and Shout Burger. avoid. I mean, is Berger injured? I don't
Well,
know.
if
He might be.
Schultberger plays, does anybody realise because he doesn't get any fantasy points anyway?
Just don't pick
I mean,
him.
this isn't the South
He's a
African
name.
national
He's a
team. He's not
name, but
playing
that's
with them.
about it. I'm seeing a lot of people pick names. You need to start doing a bit of research and not pick names. Willie
Pick
LaRue
whoever's
also.
playing against the Jaguars and whoever's playing against the Sunwolves and
Villy
whoever's
LaRue,
against
yeah,
the Kings.
that. But Villy LaRue, like, I love him.
Don't pick him.
Don't pick him. I love him, but do not
He's
pick
not
him.
selfish enough.
No, he's not. He gives it. He's a 10 playing at 15. Do not pick him as fantasy. Anyway, I had him at the beginning and I was just like, this is rubbish. So I looked at it and I just thought, no, don't pick him. Right, I'm playing the music. Let's turn that up to max. Boom. Right, this has been Line Break Rugby Fantasy Chat. I've been your host Charlie, and the other guy who's top of the league and smashing the Highlanders as well. He's top of Reddit, top of something else, top of the Line Break one. Are you top of Highlanders?
I think I'm top of everything. Yeah, I am out of 577 people.
He's at the top, so
really rolling.
we're meant to know what we're talking about. I'm second and fifth. Kind of know what I'm talking about.
Fix up. Come on, you can get to second soon.
Right. I'm signing off. I'm gonna actually show. I'll leave it. I'll let the music play.
What is the music?
Oh yeah, you barely ever hear it, do you? It's playing now. We're talking over it, but it doesn't really matter. Who cares?
I was going to say, because I think maybe we should get, for next time's podcast, let's get the licensing rights to Forgot About Dre. And then next time we have a really good game week and we do one of these, we'll play that out.
Well, no, let's get the charged up diss track and we'll just record something. Charged up.
Gonna do a hit 'em up at Eddie Jones.
Right, we've been Line Break Rugby. Happy fantasy points.